This
everyone,
conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to remind everyone to please mute. And when we do give any comment, if you're asked to do so, please give your name for the record before speaking. I would ask that at this time, someone from the city staff, I believe Claire is on, or Darlene, please take roll for planning commission members. Roll, please.
Okay, now go.
Tom Barker,
Yes.
Matt Malozzi,
Present.
Lou Stellato,
He called you twice now, that Justin guy.
Mr.
that
Stellato,
you, Lou?
are you present?
Okay. Press it, send it.
Joy Cohen,
Present.
and Mr. Rob Malosky.
I am here just to verify, is Mr. Stellato present?
Yes.
Okay. I will, again, if you don't mind muting, I will go to our first agenda item, which is the approval of the March 12th. I have a clarification question for the March 12th minutes as it pertains to the land development plan on Van Buren Street. In the, I believe, the fourth, actually the second to last paragraph or third to last paragraph, I believe if I recall, there was a discrepancy with what will be placed between or in front of the driveways. And I believe I clarified that it was okay. I know Ms. Samuelson mentioned something about vegetation, and the developer wanted to, I believe, use some type of river rock as a separation. I just want to clarify saying that I was okay with that, whether it was vegetation or river rock. I don't know if Ms. Samuelson, you want anything to add to that before we make that change to the minutes? Tracy, I did not hear you. You were muted. Tracy, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
There was no vote on that change. So the vegetation comment was kept in the letter. There was just discussion.
So as it pertains to that part of the plan, it was voted on that the developer has to have vegetation?
Well, the motion was made to approve the Van Buren Street Land Development Plan and Lot Line Adjustment, including all the comments of the March 6, 2020 letter, in addition to adding a no parking sign in front of the duplex. That was the motion.
And I'm recalling what I had suggested as well, that I had said that it was okay if it was vegetation or river rock. And I don't see that in the minutes.
If you want us to go back and check that again, we can do that. Our records didn't show that the motion included any other revisions to the letter.
Yeah, if we could double check that, and then Council, is it possible that we approve these March minutes for next time, or is that something that needs to be done now? And
You can defer approval of these minutes until the next meeting.
I'm gonna defer the approval of these minutes to the next meeting. Is that something we need a motion on, Ed?
I believe you should, yes.
I'm gonna make a motion to defer the March 12th minutes. Do I have a second?
But to affirm or defer? You want to defer?
I want to defer so that we have our city staff can go back
That
and
would be correct.
verify.
That would be a correct way to say it, yes.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Who was that? Tom.
Tom?
Tom Barker, second. Roll, please.
Mr. Malozzi,
Yes.
Mr. Stellato,
Skyway. But not like that. I know. Tom, you know, she knows Tully Steller from somewhere. Is that his name?
Yeah.
No, I know from somewhere. He looks so different. Why?
Do you want to call it again?
Mr. Stellato, Mr. Stellato,
He's not on.
No, he's on.
All right.
It's not unmuting him when I do that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay, I'm here. I said yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
and Mr. Malosky.
Yes, so the motion carries. The minutes for March 12th will be put on next month's agenda, allowing the city staff time to review the notes with that discrepancy. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is the land development plan of Lehigh University College of Business and Economics. Will the presenter please introduce yourself, and you may proceed with your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Steve Bowell. I'm an attorney at Fitzpatrick Wentz and Buba. Can I just confirm you can hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Very good. Thank you. First off, thank you very much to the Planning Commission and the city staff for making this meeting happen. We know the difficulties that this imposes, and you're doing a great job, by the way. I've done many of these hearings, and you're doing great with this, so thank you. So this plan is not new to the Planning Commission. We were here previously on site plan review over the winter before we went to the zoning hearing board to receive some variances relative to setback and height. The university was successful in obtaining those variances, and we're here tonight for preliminary and final approval. We're going to have two people that are going to make parts of our presentation. The first is Mr. Douglas from VMA, who's the project architect, and the second is Kyle McGeorge from Langen Engineering, our project engineer, to address the comments from the review letter. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Douglas, and I see already that the elevations are up, so thank you for that.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So my point was just to reintroduce you to the building a little bit. And this is a view from the southwest corner of the building. That's the corner of Webster and Packer, looking back towards the building. So this shows the idea that it's a three-story building from that Packer side. There's a datum point that's brought around the building, below of which is that gray stone, which is sort of an ashlar granite. And above that point, the building's all limestone and curtain wall with and you can see sunshades on the west elevation, which is the narrower one that faces us, vertical sunshades and horizontal sunshades on the the south elevation as it faces towards Packer Street. And then in the next slide, there it is. This is a rendering of the southeast corner of the view from Taylor and Packer, the existing Roush College of Business, which shows a fairly generous courtyard that's not very far off of the Taylor and Packer intersection that becomes the entrance to the building. And the idea that this east end of the building is masked down a little bit to try to bring a little bit more nuance to the overall form. And you can see that in the middle of the image, that large glass area is a large atrium, 2-story atrium space that becomes a sort of a glowing beacon of the new College of Business. And then the next slide. So these are the north and south elevations. So the north elevation on the top is much better described in the perspectives, of course. The south elevation on the top is much better described in the perspectives. And the north elevation is the elevation that faces Van Buren Street. So the only change to this elevation, I think, since you've seen it before, is we've actually added some substantial extra glass at the stair towers with the idea of trying to get a little bit more connectivity visually in and out of the building. And we think it makes a much more beautiful facade facing off campus. And then I think the last slide that I will, so these are the shorter elevations, both of which I think are also described better in the perspectives. And then in the next slide. So this shows the aspect of the building on the site. So to the bottom of the drawing, the south side, that's Packer. And on either side is Webster and Taylor and Van Buren on the north. And this shows street trees all the way around the perimeter. The idea of a courtyard, that courtyard off the Taylor-Packer intersection with some landscape and some hardscape in it. And I think that's about it.
Thanks, Rob. This is Kyle. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Kyle. I was going to introduce you. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so as Steve said before, my name is Kyle McGeorge. I'm with Langen Engineering, a civil engineer on the project. If you could go back to that last rendered site plan again, I'll just say a couple more words about it. So as Rob mentioned, there are street trees all the way around the perimeter of the site. These are the same trees that we showed you the last time we were here presenting the site plan prior to the zoning hearing board meeting, and the street trees are compliant with the number of street trees per the ordinance. The one landscape waiver that was requested back when we were there in the fall had to do with the amount of pervious area and planting area on the site relative to the size of the building. And at the time, the Planning Commission did approve a waiver of that amount of landscaping with the understanding that there would be a fee in lieu that was calculated by the city at that time, which was agreed to by the university. So I just wanted to hit on the fact that all landscape requirements are being addressed either through that fee or through meeting the requirements of the ordinance. You can go to the next slide. So this plan, all this is showing is really the survey of the site. So in case anyone isn't familiar exactly with where it is, this existing site is primarily a parking lot that's used by some people for facilities, and 3 small Lehigh University-owned buildings also that is used by facilities. So those 3 buildings will be demolished as part of the project, and then the parking lot will be transformed into new building space. But as you can see from the site, there's quite a bit of impervious area on the site, and so from a stormwater perspective, we're actually improving the conditions because the new building will have a green roof on it. So the amount of pervious area on the site will actually be increased above what is there today. You go to the next slide that shows the site plan. So this is just the more detailed site plan. I think the primary things to hit on here are that we are doing a fair number of improvements to the site beyond the limits of the building that Rob talked about. We are doing new ADA ramps at all corners of the site. In addition to that, the city had requested, as one of the earlier reviews, that we improve the ADA ramps across the intersection at Webster Street, as well as across Packer over by Taylor. So those are all shown on this plan. And then additionally, the kind of light shading you see in the roads is a mill overlay that will happen for Webster Street and Packer, again, as requested as part of the initial site plan review, which the university has agreed to do as part of the project. From a traffic and circulation standpoint, there's really no increase in traffic demand as part of the project. We did submit a traffic impact study as one of the prior submissions, to which the city reviewed. The city and traffic engineer also reviewed that and didn't take any objections to the site number of vehicular counts or anything like that we proposed. Mainly the improvements that were requested related to the pedestrian improvements that we had just mentioned. From a parking standpoint, the project was included in the Lehigh University parking study as it relates to the campus-wide parking accommodation. That study was submitted, received approval by the city staff. Lehigh is using multimodal transportation in conjunction with Lanta to address those concerns with regard to parking spaces and travel. We can go to the next slide. So this plan is the stormwater and utility plan. Again, what you see is that kind of a cross hatch on top of the roofs. Those are the approximate areas of green roof. So when you look at those areas relative to the site, you can see it's an increase in pervious area, as I noted before. Otherwise, the drainage patterns remain the same. We have your standard utility connections to the city system for sewer and water. Those are happening in Van Buren and Webster Street. And then there are some stormwater and a new stormwater inlet on Packer and a couple of small inlets that are happening in that courtyard area to just collect any runoff in the landscape zones. This plan's been reviewed by the engineering department at the city. And the one outstanding comment that was on the letter with regards to this was the location of the inlet in Packer, which actually was corrected on this plan and has already been addressed. And the city engineer has acknowledged that he's okay with the new location that we have shown. I think if you go to the next plan, I think that's the lighting drawing, which I can just hit on briefly. So a lot on this plan, but I think just the purpose of this is to show that we are hitting the city and Lehigh University standards for lighting. There's 3 new poles that meet the city standard requirements out in the sidewalk area. And then a combination of building mounted lighting, bollard lighting within the site to meet the rest of the lighting demands, but it'll be a well-lit facility from a safety standpoint. And then the last drawing in this set is really just the landscape plan, which I already talked about because I thought it would present better on the rendered site plan drawing. But if there are any questions with regard to the trees, we can talk about them on that last plan. So I think that's the extent of the drawings we wanted to present. If there are any questions, and I did kind of hit on the 2, I think, primary comments that were in the final review letter, but if we want to go through the letter, we could do that as well.
Did in terms of the parking, I see on the memo, Darlene Tracy, that the city was waiting to receive additional traffic response comments regarding loss of parking. Did we receive anything of that? Darlene Tracy, you're muted, Tracy. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We received it, and we also had a in-depth conversation with them and Tiffany Wells, and we are satisfied right now with everything that we have received.
Thank you. Any questions from the Planning Commission? Again, we ask that you, before you talk, introduce yourself. If you have any questions pertaining to the land development plan at Lehigh University College of Business Economics, anyone?
Lou here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Solano.
Yeah, my only concern was with the parking, and I think that was addressed and it was answered correctly, so I'll accept it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solano. Are there any other comments from the planning commission or questions for Mr. Boel or Mr. McGregor at this time?
This is Matt Malozzi. I know some time has elapsed. The letter was dated April 6th. I'm not sure what the dates of the plans are. And there have been discussions. I was going to ask the same question you did, Chairman Malosky, about the traffic issues and parking. But the general question is, the letter on the 6th, then either have all these comments either been addressed with subsequent discussions with the cities in the past 2 months, or overall is the applicant agreeable to addressing any outstanding comments?
It's Tracy. There's only 4 comments in the letter, and 2 of them are regarding submission of funds. And the inlet relocation has been discussed with engineering, and they can speak to that. We are ready to prepare the developers agreement and have them pay their fees and, get ready. I believe they might even turn in building permits already to kind of look at them and issue permits.
And on behalf of the university, I would say that with regard to the fees noted on the letter, we're more than happy to have those be a condition and address those as part of the development agreements.
Thank you, Mr. Boel. Mr. Malozzi, does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And I want to apologize, Kyle. I called you Mr. McGregor. I was thinking of the fighter that just recently retired. So, hey, it's a good Irish name there, Mr. McGeorge. I apologize.
No problem. I've been called that before.
Any other questions or comments from the planning commission? Hearing none, any public comment? Again, if you are making any comment from the public, please state your name, introduce yourself, give your address for the record. Any public comment at this time?
I'm trying to see any comments. Right here? Oh, inlet has been addressed. Yeah, I said that too.
Hearing none, I just want to clarify a message from Tiffany. Matt Dorner, our city engineer, just verified that the comment regards the inlet has indeed been addressed. So without anything else, any other comments or question, I'd look to have a motion on the land development plan at Lehigh University College of Business and Economics expansions as it pertains to the April 6th memo. Do we have a motion?
This is Matt Malozzi. I will make a motion to approve the land development plan and application for Lehigh University College of Business and Economics expansion, 461 Webster Street, contingent upon meeting the conditions set forth in the April 6th review letter from the city of Bethel.
Motion made by Mr. Malozzi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Tom Barker. Roll, please.
Mr. Stellato?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
And Mr. Malozzi?
Yes.
Mr. Malosky?
Yes. Thank you, and best of luck, Mr. Moel and Mr. McGeorge, moving forward. We're excited about this project for Lehigh University.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is a waiver request at 1429 Fritz Drive. Will the applicant requesting the waiver please introduce yourself and give your name for the record?
This is attorney Bill Matz. I represent the Bethlehem Housing Authority, 211 West Broad Street, Bethlehem, PA is my office address. We'll present through our Bethlehem Housing Authority, present its reasons and direction as it relates to the request through Kurt Kitchline, who's the Director of Capital Improvements for the Housing Authority. I believe it's a memo that's been circulated by the planning group through Tracy Samuelson, sort of outlines it, the April 29th letter to the Planning Commission makes the request, and it relates to the parking arrangement on Pembroke Road within the authority. I'll introduce then Mr. Kitchline to present the request, and we can address some of the history of why that request is in place. Mr. Kitchline, are you there? Can you respond?
He appears to be muted.
Yeah, Mr. Kitchline, if you don't mind unmuting.
Our information shows that he's not connected to audio.
I wonder if you can make call 4 or 6.
Unless he's on the phone as well.
I guess I'm mute now.
Well, we can give Mr. Kitchline, if he can hear us, at least give him we'll be patient with him and give him a few minutes and maybe reconnect. In the meantime, Attorney Matz, is there anything that you can go into detail on?
Absolutely. This application is to try to address the parking problems which Pembroke Village, one of the parts of Bethlehem Housing Authority, has had. The original parking plan that was in place dates back to 1942. Obviously, at that point, or maybe not obviously, most of the residents did not have a vehicle. Today, most residents do own vehicle, and they have facility, the use of parking is limited. In addition, we've had the law that is interceded relating to handicap accessible requirements for the housing facilities, which depend upon handicap access, number of lots for each village unit. So the off-street parking arrangement has been increasingly obviously problematic. And the plan that's been presented, the one that's on in front of us here, produced by Acela, addresses the parking problems. However, one of them, the one that's along Pembroke Road here, is in conflict with section 131108A in the fact that it sits between the physical land improvement and the curb line to Pembroke Road. So as a result, the applicant's requesting a waiver or relief from that section in order to construct the parking adjustments to that area, consistent with the plan that's presented here in the Acela development drawing.
Thank you, Attorney Matz. Anything from Mr. Kitchline yet?
Well, I know he's online, and I just texted him before I started to speak there, and I do not. He said he's on the phone, but and can hear, but I don't know where he's at in terms of his connection.
Is there anything that, if you could ask him, Attorney Matz, is there anything that you missed or omitted that Mr. Kitchline can direct through you to present to us in reference to this waiver request?
No, he would be addressing the history the concerns, the question that was raised there, as well as the plan that's been presented.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Kitchline, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm on a cell phone and the audio wouldn't connect. And all right, so I had to dial back in. So the purpose of this, I just want to confirm everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. The purpose of this request is the Pembroke development built in 1942. Parking was not a priority then, as a lot of families didn't even own vehicles. So there are, if you go to the second slide, I don't know if I'm controlling that or you guys are controlling that.
Second slide, admin, is Darlene, if you could. I think we might be on it, Mr. Kitchline. I know you cannot.
Okay, how about the first slide? There should be a site map of Pembroke with a bunch of buildings with circles around them. Here we go.
Yes, that's the one, Darlene, right there. We have it, Mr. Kitchline.
Okay, I see it. Thank you. Yeah, this is a site plan of the Pembroke development, which has 196 apartments. And the buildings that are circled comprise 80 of those 196 apartments that there is no parking. In other words, that long oval of circled buildings on Dover Lane, which has Pembroke Road on the back of it. Dover Lane's got 54 apartments that there is no parking. Dover Lane's a one-lane service alley. And what happens is people on Dover Lane and all those other circled areas end up parking on Mansfield Court, Merriman Court, Fritz Drive, which then the people that live there don't have parking. It's just a situation, again, that in 1942, I don't think people thought that they didn't think people in public housing would have ready access to vehicles like they do today. The other thing that's compounded it is when residents that live on a city street, for example, like Fritz Drive, if they need a handicap parking spot, they go to the parking authority and pay the fee and get the spot. But and that Fritz Drive is littered with handicap parking spots. And what ends up happening is in a given distance, you might be able to park 14 cars. But if you have 4 of those are now predetermined handicap spots, that might bring the area of the parking down to maybe 10 cars because the cars can't be spaced like they were because where the handicap spots are located. So there's just a number of items that have made parking just dreadful in this development. So the purpose of that parking lot number 3, well, the purpose of all the parking lots, but the one we're requesting the waiver, is to try to give more parking area to the residents.
And is it correct in saying, Mr. Kitchline, that I think it's, from what I remember looking at the memo, one of the final sentences was multiple businesses kind of near Pembroke or across the street, I think it was worded. They already have that. Is that correct?
Yes, there's 1 or 2 that are on the housing authority side of the street, which is the north side, but there must be 7, 8, or 9 on the south side to the east of us that have that situation where there's a building, a parking lot, and Pembroke Road.
Right. Okay. Tracy or Darlene, is there anything else to add from the June 5th memo in reference to the waiver request?
I believe the only item that Kurt might have left out, I had asked if they were able to put it in a compliant area at the above Essex. We have to go back to the other sheet, but go back up to the proposal.
Just point to it.
No, it's not on this page. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, great. So if you can see where the parking is proposed, the 9 or 10 spaces, directly on the north side, up a little higher, on the north, right there, I said, isn't that a place where you could add some parking? And it's a very steep slope there, as it slopes down to some just born vacant land, and you can't even put parking there because that would make it behind the most behind a building. So anyway, knowing that there's no other place to really put the parking, we did recommend approval in my memo dated June 5th, 2020.
And I believe that is also in that memo on June 5th, what you just explained in terms of the slope, Tracy.
Yes, I did add that to that memo. Mhm.
Anything else? Are there any questions from any members of the planning commission as in reference to the waiver request for the memo dated June 5th, 1429 Fritz Drive?
I have one question or thought. I'm assuming that the 9 additional spaces are going to be limited to residents only. Is that correct?
Yes,
Mr. Solano's question, just for residents, is that correct?
yes, just for residents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solano. Any other questions from the planning commission?
This is Joy. I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Cohen.
It's difficult for me to see the size of the screen. Is the parking driveway one-way or two-way out onto Pembroke? And does it connect into the parking to the north?
This is Kurt. It connects into the parking from the north. It's one way into the new proposed parking lot and one way out onto Pembroke Road.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the planning commission for the waiver request? 1429 Fritz Drive.
This is Matt Malozzi. I guess following up on Ms. Cohen's question. So are these back-in only spaces when you drive in and back into them?
No, they're pull-in only spaces and you back out to get out.
Okay. Thank you. Tough to tell from the plan, but appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Malozzi. Any other questions? Any comment or questions from the public as it pertains to the waiver request 1429 Fritz Drive? Hearing none, I would take a motion on this waiver request at this time. Do we have a motion?
This is Matt Malozzi. I'll make a motion to approve the waiver request for 1429 Fritz Drive. Waiver from section 1311.08A of the zoning ordinance for parking spaces between a principal building and the front curb of an arterial street line.
Mr. Malozzi with the motion. I will second it. Roll, please.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Now, yes. Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Malozzi?
Yes.
Mr. Stellato?
Aye.
And Mr. Malosky?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, and best of luck moving forward with the new parking area at Fritz Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck. Any discussion items that need to be brought up? Darlene, anything? Tracy?
I don't think we have anything today. I guess as a follow-up, we can discuss what might have worked with the meeting and things we might want to change for the next remote meeting that we hold. We can talk about some feedback, but we don't have any other real discussion items that we need to bring in right now.
Well, other than me calling the one presenter, Conor McGregor, I gotta be honest with you, I thought everything went smooth.
Yeah.
So
I think, Yeah, I think so too, but the meeting was pretty straightforward. We didn't really have any public participants that I know of. I don't know who, but
One of the things, Darlene, that we usually get in our packets is kind of a timeline of what's in waiting or what's about to expire. Maybe you want to just touch on that. Is there anything in the works that we may be seeing shortly? Do you have that memo that we usually get, that chart?
Yeah, we have that. We have Tracy keeps this. Tracy and Claire keep this list up pretty current. Probably in the next month, the thing that you'll see next is either another development on Easton Road, part of a remnant of the Bethlehem Steel land, probably owned at this point by LVIP. And possibly also there's a Royal Farms that's submitted to be approved at the corner of Airport Road and Avenue A.
Okay.
Is there anything further on 8th Avenue, Darlene?
For the Martin Tower site?
Yes.
We have not heard anything at this point. I haven't seen any responses or any updates since you reviewed the sketch plan, which would have been over a year ago now.
That long?
Well, the building came down May 19th of last year, and you saw a site plan the month before. So it was either April or May where you reviewed that concept plan for the whole site.
Well, I will say this, obviously when that tower came down and that entire site, such a huge undertaking, I have to commend the crew that was there handling the getting rid of some of that stuff, even throughout this time. I mean, there's a lot cleared out. I mean, I know there's still a ways to go, but certainly there has been progress there.
Yes, it is. I go by there every day, and it really looks good. I think we're going to see something soon.
I'm going to ask a question here. I don't think it's just planning commission members on the line. There's Alani Goins, G-O-I-N-S. Is there another person on the line? Or caller 4?
Yeah.
I know. They can.
Hi, Darlene. I'm from the Bethlehem Press. I cover these meetings.
Okay, thank you. And there's a caller 4 on the line that I don't know if we know the identity of that person either.
That might be me, Sarah Sotullo.
Oh, okay.
Sarah is showing up.
Pardon me?
Sarah is showing up.
Okay, yes.
Oh, there might be more
Darlene?
people.
I can't. Yes.
Darlene, can you hear me? It's Tiffany.
Oh, hi, Tiffany.
I might be caller 4 because I'm calling you on the phone.
That's who it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for discussion? So, Darlene, moving forward, obviously you'll be in touch with us, and I assume that July we are scheduled for. Is it safe to say July 9th?
Yeah, I think we can have a regularly scheduled meeting. We'll keep you in the loop about whether or not some of these pending plans are ready for final review at that time. But I think we'll be virtual or remote for a little while now.
Right, and that'll be a 5 o'clock start on July 9th. And obviously all planning commission members know the day of the meeting, Darlene will send out the link so that you can access the meeting. And obviously Claire will send out the our packets and the agenda items usually the Friday. Now that week prior to it, Darlene, is July 3rd, and I think that's when the holiday is being recognized, so you may want to get our packets to us July 2nd.
Okay, all right, we'll shoot for that.
Anything
We'll
else
shoot
for
for
the
that.
good, anything else for the good of the order?
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
Just trying to run a smooth meeting. Anytime Attorney Keeley doesn't have to get involved, that's a good thing.
I think he's directing air traffic over there, so.
I feel- he got his eyes set.
Listen, can somebody move so we can have dinner?
Hey,
No, we're good.
Thanks.
I think it's going great. You guys have been
yeah,
really
everything
well
went
on
well,
this.
guys. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next month.
All right, thanks.
Have a great night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Good job.